I should not be allowed to drink Diet Coke when I'm recording. I was almost going to say Diet Dr. Pepper, but that's not what we got. Gracie Cat Lady here, and there are very few, if any things that I would not do to give my cats eternal life. Oh my gosh, yes, I would give up Diet Coke, not sponsored, and mac and cheese if my cats had eternal life. And that's saying a lot for me. This is Historical Events That Don't Make Sense. Hey, my name is Raeann, and I am here to explore everything weird, wacky, and or just plain mysterious. And today we are talking about a very special little kitty, Unsinkable Sam. Hey, what's up? Welcome back. It's been little bit. I casually had a mental breakdown about this podcast, so I had to take a hot minute. I just had to step back. Also, you would think that, you know, like senior slide, now that like I'm in college and I'm like probably gonna get a job, like senior slide, that should happen. And it should happen more than it did in high school when I had to like think about college and think about my grades still. No, I physically cannot senior slide at the moment, and that's not great for me. But we're back, and we are here with a super great episode. I really enjoyed researching this. I was like looking up, you know, things to talk about, and they were like, oh yeah, this awesome cat. And I'm like, you don't need to tell me more. It's a cat. I'm going to talk about a cat. Maybe we'll have a cat. Maybe we'll have a cat visitor, but probably not, because they're sleeping. We're putting the Diet Coke aside for now. All right. Well, let's get right into it, because you probably didn't care about anything I said until right now.
That's right.
So, 1941 was a year in Germany.
Heil Hitler.
So, the Nazis invade a bunch of countries. Black letter Gothic font gets banned. Black letter Gothic scripts, fonts, same thing. Which, why would you ban a typeface?
Heil Hitler.
And the world's first working programmable fully automatic computer is presented. But more interesting than all of that, and so much better than some of that, was the beginning of the military career of Oscar, the cat, who is also known as Unsinkable Sam. He was just like a little black and white patched cat. They don't really have any pictures of him, but I'm assuming that he was adorable because he's a little cat. I'm going to be referring to him mostly as Oscar. But if you like look up like Oscar the cat, you're probably not going to get anything, but you look up Unsinkable Sam, we'll talk about it. So Oscar began his military career as a Nazi. And he was not actually, most likely, he was not one of those cats who did have like the Hitler like mustache. I'll put a picture here if you're watching on YouTube. Those cats are kind of funny, which I shouldn't laugh at. But wouldn't it be really ironic if he did? Because he was a Nazi cat. I mean, his ideals probably weren't like a Nazi. He was probably good, because he's a cat. But if you talk to some people, they were like, oh, of course he was a Nazi because he was a cat. Cats are the devil. Anyway, so Oscar was among the crew of over 2,000 men on a ship called the Bismarck. Is it Otto von Bismarck? He was the first chancellor of Germany. I didn't write that in my script. I just remembered it. In middle school, I did a project on him because it was like, oh yeah, the first chancellor of Germany. Guess who also was a chancellor of Germany? Hitler. I'm going to do a project on it. That was the connection in my brain.
Stop it. Get some help.
But we're not talking about Otto von Bismarck. We're talking about a cat who was on a ship called the Bismarck. And it was the pride of Germany's navy, one of the biggest battleships that they had. And it set sail in 1939. And we don't know when Oscar officially went on there, but pretty sure it was 1941. And by that time, it had reached the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean in an attempt to sabotage the naval envoys that were carrying supplies between Canada and the UK. And so on May 24th, 1941, the Bismarck sank a British battlecruiser, and the Brits, they were pissed.
You have sunk my battleship.
Excellent! Yeah!
This isn't Battleship. Oh, I mean, it actually is because it's World War II.
It's time for World War II.
But so in retaliation, the British launched an intense pursuit of this ship. And I was thinking, what if the British knew that there was a wonderful, beautiful cat on board? Would they have done anything different?
No.
And then I was thinking, Raeann, it's World War II. They would have done it. It doesn't matter if there was a cat on board. It's World War II, man. So, like I said, the British launched an intense attack pursuit of the Bismarck, and that involved like both air and naval attacks, and it was like a 3-day long battle against this ship. And at the end of it all, the Bismarck was left destroyed and sunk, and less than 120 of the over 2,000 crew members survived. And so if we transition to the other side, the British side of the battle, there was a British ship called the Cossack, and they just sunk a ship. They were probably partying it up. They just sunk the pride of the Germans' navy. They were probably partying. I think they were celebrating the dub. They didn't do anything, this ship. They didn't get any hits in. But even though they were sitting on the bench, they were still part of that team. So, that's all that counts. They did not get a participation trophy, but they did get a winner's trophy, first place. And I'm pretty sure that most people would prefer that.
Please stop talking!
So, they're partying it up, living. And some men on the Cossack noticed a black lump on a floating plank. And what is this black lump? A kitty! It's Oscar! And yeah, I'm sure you assumed, since this whole episode is about this cat whose name literally is Unsinkable Sam, he survived. I mean, like I said, most of the human crew did not survive, but this best boy did survive. I don't know how. We don't have the information from his head. We don't have his side of the story. But we do know he survived. So then Oscar, no longer a Nazi. He's now a member of the British Royal Navy, probably. And yeah, congratulations, Oscar. You are no longer a Nazi. We're so proud of you. And that's basically where he got his name. We have no idea if he had a name on the German ship. Obviously, the British men who found Oscar did not talk to the surviving Nazis. They probably put them in prison. So the British people gave him a name, and that's on record. The first letter came from the International Code of Signals for O, which means man overboard, which I think is adorable. And they, decided it's a German cat. Oscar's a good German name. His name is Oscar. So the British soldiers were just so impressed by this little boy. He had more resilience than 99% of the Nazis. Like, this cat wanted to live. They adopted him, and he became the mascot of the Cossack and basically the entire British Royal Navy. I was right, it was the Navy, obviously, because they were on a ship. So the crew set back on sail, and for several months, Oscar got to travel all along the Mediterranean, living his best life, going along the North Atlantic. Like I said, on the Cossack. I don't know why I wrote it again, but I did. So, a few months after traveling, in October of 1941, when Oscar thought he was just living his best life, disaster struck once again. So the ship was hit by a German torpedo. The Germans wanted revenge for Oscar the cat. Obviously. So during that incident, as the ship sunk, 139 of the crew members were killed. I didn't, for some reason, look up how much were on the ship originally, but 139 of the crew members were killed. But not Oscar. A few days after that, I haven't had a sip of Diet Coke in like 10 minutes. A few days after the blow from the German torpedo, rescue efforts were being made, getting everybody off the ship, but it did sink. Took a few days, and as British soldiers were saving their comrades. They're not Russian. Same side of the war. As they were saving their fellow soldiers, they noticed a black lump floating on a wooden plank. Again. And it was Oscar again. And he was saved as well. So then he was... I skipped a paragraph. So the British officers were getting the lowdown on the situation.
So what's the sitch?
Figuring out who survived, what happened, what are we gonna do. They heard about Oscar's story from the British soldiers who saved him from the first ship, and they officially dubbed him. I don't know if you could hear that. Things are happening upstairs. They officially dubbed him Unsinkable Sam. And, I think being on 2 shipwrecks, I'd be done. 1, I would definitely be done. I feel like if I was on a shipwreck, I would never want to go on a ship again. But 2, absolutely not. But Oscar, Bestie was not done. World War II was still raging. He was a military man at heart. America, America. If only he was American. He had American blood. Surviving. So he was then transferred to an aircraft carrier called the HMS Ark Royal. Royal. It doesn't have an E at the end. It's Royal, assuming. And this crew on this ship, they just fell in love instantly with Oscar. He was such a good boy. And so it is on record that the crew just said that he brought a sense of just hope and comfort for the crew. Which, I mean, again, it's 1941, World War II. They're in action. They're British soldiers in action defending the world, basically. They need a cat. I lay in bed having panic attacks all day. Nothing near what they're doing, and I need a cat. They needed a cat. So the crew on the Ark Royal were no strangers to combat. This ship was very well known and well used in the war. It was actually instrumental in taking down Oscar's original ship, the Bismarck, and it also had survived several near misses. That ship is a well-seen soldier.
I'm a survivor.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. But so the ship gained a reputation, like from all the near misses, it gained a reputation of being a lucky ship. And the Germans actually incorrectly reported it missing or sunk several times. So Germans, so on multiple occasions did Hitler himself, I'm sure, think that this ship was down, but it was not. It was resilient. So maybe it was Oscar, maybe it was Maybelline, but luck did not last for this lady. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty proud of that one. So literally only about a month after Oscar joined the crew, the aircraft carrier was torpedoed by a German U-boat and it was decimated. It was just hit like one too many times in its life, and this was it. So the crew had to begin abandoning ship, and thankfully this ship had the least amount of casualties. Only one of the almost 1,500 crew members was killed in this incident. And that crew member, unfortunately, was not Oscar. Nope. Bestie survived. He was found once again, a black lump on a floating plank. Third time's the charm. I don't know where he kept finding these wooden planks, but he was on them. There was enough room for him. There was not enough room for Jack. So there was a British destroyer called the HMS Legion that was working on a rescue, and they found Oscar, and they said, literally, quote, he was angry, but quite unharmed. He was just ticked off. I can imagine. I have pictures of my cats. I got him. It's over there. I got him a little hat, a little like grandma bonnet, bandana. I'll show a picture. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you got to see this. But they're pissed off, man. And I imagine that's exactly the face that Oscar was making here. And thankfully, after 3 shipwrecks, Oscar was not officially retired, but he was taken out of active duty. They transported him to Gibraltar, which ironically was a really safe space during this time in the war. He did have a job, and he kind of lived in the building of the Governor General, and he was the official mouse hunter. And he just also kept the soldiers that were stationed on Gibraltar just company, as he should. He was good at that. And then after a couple years of living the chill life, he was officially retired when the war was over in 1945. And he was transported back to the UK to live out the rest of his days. He lived with a seaman in Belfast. And this beast of a cat, Oscar died in 1955. We don't know how old he was when he joined the military in 1941, but he lived an entire decade after the war was done. So he was for sure alive in 1941, so maybe let's just say he was a couple months old. I mean, he lived for at least 14 years. And he survived 3 shipwrecks. This boy, a legend. Now, I really do wish that was the end of Oscar's story. Him dying peacefully, living in Belfast, just being an absolute boy. But there is actually a little bit more to the story. See, some people can't just believe that this adorable and inspiring tale is real.
What you talking about, Will?
And I gotta say, those people probably live really sad and depressing lives. But I did find some examination, just looking into the legitimacy of the tale. So apparently there was no actual record of any cat on the Bismarck. And none of the survivors recalled seeing one at all. And maybe that sounds like, oh, dang, they lied. But Bestie could have just been a stowaway instead of an official military cat. Maybe he wasn't an actual Nazi. I'd like to believe that he wasn't an actual Nazi. So he, like I said, he was the official mascot of the Royal Navy after he was rescued by them. So maybe he just wasn't a mascot of the Nazis. And that, that would explain why he wasn't on the official registry of ships on the Bismarck, like he was on his other 2 ships. So, yeah. I believe in Oscar. His story is real. His story is legitimate. Oscar, you are valid. Up in heaven, my child, you are real. I believe in you. And if you don't believe that Oscar isn't real, then I don't believe that you are real. And I don't like you. I don't believe that your story is real and valid. So yeah, that's kind of the end of Oscar's tale, but I did want to give a shout out to some other wartime pets. One of the articles that I was reading kind of ended their article like this, and I thought it was adorable, so I wanted to also talk about wartime pets. Anyway, so I was thinking, kind of to preface this section, would the Black Plague have existed if they had cats on those ships that transported all the diseased rats? I would like to think so. I think that cats could have ended the Black Plague before it began. Because it was actually a pretty regular occurrence, at least later when we have a little more documentation. It was a pretty regular occurrence to have cats on ships, to keep mice away and also boost morale, as they should. So, specifically in the early 20th century, there was a tiger-striped tabby named Mrs. Chippy, and she got to travel on a transatlantic journey. Convoy was another British cat who traveled on the HMS Hermione. And then there was Blackie, who traveled on the HMS Prince of Wales. And the HMS Prince of Wales also I think at that time that Blackie was on it, it also carried Winston Churchill to a very secret meeting with FDR. And so I'd like to think that Blackie was on the ship at that time and got to hang out with he was the prime minister, right? There were other wartime animals too, in World War I specifically, not just cats. So the U.S. had a dog named Stubby who warned his troops about an upcoming attack and helped aid in the rescue after that attack. Amazing. Not a big dog person, but Stubby is a legend. And then also, apparently, there were bears, chicken, mice, and monkeys who were also soldiers. Legends. So that was the story of Oscar, the best boy, aka Unsinkable Sam. Literally one of the most legendary cats ever. Like, I wish I got to meet him. I wish I was alive. After, like, doing all the research for this, it really just made me think about how lazy my cats are. They could be soldiers, but they're sleeping right now. One of them might be sleeping in the freaking ceiling right now. They could be soldiers. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I did filming it. Mental breakdown about the show's over, so more is coming. Thank you for listening and or watching historical events that don't make sense. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Inside the Box Creation and let me know about what topics you want to hear about next. We'll see you later.